welcome back to Champion the Passion, a weekly pro wrestling podcast where we inspire you to champion your passions and celebrate the joy of what you love. I'm your host. My name is Victoria Daisy, and today we're going to be recapping everything that happened last night on NXT. But before we dive deeper, don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. But guys, we are back from break. I took a break from Champion the Passion for about a week and a half while I was away in New Jersey for SummerSlam. That was the most fun experience ever. It was my first ever 2-night WWE event, and it was amazing. If you guys want to see all the content that I created, you can go see it on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everything, all of the above. It's all there. And if you guys want to see, my vlog is already out from the weekend, reaction videos from the superstore, the stadium, everything. I even went to New York Giants training camp. Like, all that content is out already for you to watch. But I had such a fun weekend, and now that the weekend is over, we are back, baby. I landed in Orlando yesterday, so we are back on Champion the Passion, ready for more wrestling. And we are going to be recapping NXT because last night was a really good episode of NXT. So let's dive right into the opening match with Blake Monroe versus Kalani Jordan. Now, this was actually a pretty good match. I was kind of shocked that they opened with Blake Monroe, but I can't complain too much. I do really like her. I really enjoyed seeing more of Blake since her WWE debut. I feel like I want to see a little bit more, though, especially more promo work. I feel like she's had a couple good matches, but she hasn't really done much on mic work, if that makes sense. And so I'm just really hoping to see more of her character and personality shine through, because I think she made a huge pop when she first debuted, but then it kind of has gone a little bit downhill a slight bit. I'm shocked that they didn't strap the rocket onto her, which, could play to her advantage in the future. But I thought she worked really well with Kalani Jordan. And then Jordan Grace came out towards the end of the match, and it was chaos between her and Blake. So she chased Blake Monroe outside the building. Now, for context, Jordan Grace pulled up in a car to then go inside the building to then chase Blake right outside of the building, if that makes sense. If you saw it, then you know what I mean. And then Blake escaped and went inside the car and drove off. And so Jordan was having a crash out per usual. But because of all of that happening, it actually led to Kalani Jordan winning via count out, which was kind of crazy. And I thought that was a pretty funny ending. I don't know, it kind of had me cackling a bit. And, I'm curious to see where this storyline continues, considering we are inching a couple weeks away from NXT Heatwave, their next PLE. And so I wonder if, either of them, Jordan or Blake, will have a match together. I think they announced a match between the two of them upcoming. I don't remember when. Or if one of them will have a match against JC Jane. I think that's a topic of conversation that needs to be said, since they are both on the chase for gold. I think Jordan Grace is long overdue for a championship in WWE, and so I'm very curious to see when that's going to happen. But the next match we had was for the NXT Tag Team Championships. We had Hank and Tank versus Chase University. Now, this was a really fun match to watch. I have to be honest. You guys know I love Hank and Tank, and I think they've continued to prove why they are the NXT Tag Team Champions. And I also thought that Chase U gave them a good run for their money in the match. I thought that Uriah Connors and Kale Dixon did a really good job of, never letting there be a moment in the match where it felt flat. I felt like it was just constant nonstop action. And, I think Chase U brings a very athletic side to the match, and Hank and Tank brings a lot of the muscle to the match. And I thought that having those two kind of wrestling styles collide was really fun. And, they had great spots, and overall it's just a very enjoyable match. But of course, in the end, Hank and Tank did retain their titles. But then Darkstate came out to attack not only Hank and Tank, but Chase U. They are continuing to make their mark, and I love that so much. And we'll talk more about Darkseid later, because they do come out again. Next, we had Miles Bourne versus Lexis King. Now, this was also another really great match from the two of them. I really, really like the spots that they did. I feel like they have very similar wrestling styles, and so I felt like they were really able to flow nicely in their match. And overall, it was just very entertaining, and I would love to see more of the two of them in the future. But in the end, Miles Bourne did take that W. Then we had Thea Hale versus Nia Jax. This was pretty interesting. This was our typical David and Goliath matchup, but I loved it. Thea Hale really tried putting her best foot forward, tried putting up the best fight she could, but unfortunately, in the end, Nia Jax did win. And I don't say unfortunately because I don't like Nia. I love Nia. But I'm saying unfortunately for Thea, she couldn't get the job done, which is okay. And then Nia got on the mic. She was getting interviewed by Kelly Kincaid, and she called out Lash Legend. And, then Lash came out and they started brawling. And I don't mean just like a quick little brawl. Like, they were brawling all night long. And this even plays into stuff we see later in the night, which I'll talk about. And this actually leads to an upcoming match. We are getting next week Lash Legend versus Nia Jax. And I'm very excited because I will be at NXT next week. So I get to witness this live. And so I'm really excited. Then after we had we had a segment with Obafemi. He came out to talk about how for 200 days, he has not only just carried the NXT championship, but he's also carried the NXT brand. He then said now he has the same question as he had before. Who is going to take the title away from him? And then Trick Williams came out, and Trick said that he is trying to convince Oba that he is worthy of another title opportunity. He was trying to convince him because he wants to be able to carry two brands. He believes that he is the man, right? And Oba was quick to respond to let him know that nobody can beat him. And then Trick was running his delusional mouth saying that, he is the man to beat Oba, the man to take him off of this mountain, this high horse. And then Javon Evans came out. And if you guys have been listening to my podcast for months, especially my NXT Recap, you would know that I'm a huge fan of Javon Evans, and I have been riding this high horse of Javon needing to be the man to take down Obafemi since before Stand and Deliver. I've been saying this. I really do believe that Javon, if booked correctly, he could be the man to take the title off of Oba. And I know that sounds crazy because, like I mentioned earlier with the Nia, it's a very David and Goliath matchup, but if you guys know the story, David did win. So I am very certain that, Javon could be the guy. I feel like we're all expecting it to be Trick. And I think if, they have a triple threat or even just Javon versus Oba, I think it would be crazy to have Javon be the man. And I think he has every right to be. He has so much potential to be the man. I think size doesn't matter. I think he is one of the best in-ring workers in NXT at the moment. And so, I'm very curious to see what happens. And then Javon challenged Trick Williams to a number one contenders match for the NXT championship. And before anything could even move further, Moose came out. When Moose's music hit, first of all, I think they changed his music because I didn't recognize it right away. Like, I know Moose's music, and I didn't realize it. So anyways, he came out to remind Trick that in 10 days, well, now 9 days, he has a date against the face of the franchise at TNA Bound of Glory, I believe is the next pay-per-view. And, he was just, reminding him, like, don't get ahead of yourself because you still have to get through me before you can get to Oba. And then Darkstate came out to continue absolutely dominating NXT. And I love what they're doing with Darkstate because I just love how they are making them feel serious. Although my only complaint is that I wish that they left with the upper hand in last night's segment because in the end, Trick, Javon, Oba, and Moose were the ones standing at the end of the segment, and Darkstate, was scrambling a bit. And I wish it was the other way around. But we did get 2 match announcements out of this segment. So we got Javon Evans versus Trick Williams. It's a number one contenders match for the NXT championship in 2 weeks in Philly when NXT goes to Philadelphia. And then next week, we will be getting an 8-man tag match, Darkstate versus Moose, Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans. So that's going to be amazing. I believe it's the main event. Then after that, we had Yoshiki Inamura versus Channing Stacks Lorenzo. Now, this was also a pretty good match. I like the story that they're telling here. There's a lot of story going on. But one of the newest storyline developments is that Ariana Grace came out to distract the referee while Josh Briggs attacked Yoshiki Inamura. Obviously, we know that they're no longer in cahoots. He turned on him, which led to Stacks getting the W. And I find it really interesting that they have Ariana and Stacks both in the same storyline, considering that they are together. I don't remember if they are engaged or married already. I'm not too sure, but I know they are engaged. Could be married. Don't remember. Anyways, but I think that's so cool for them, in real life outside of kayfabe. That's probably really something that's special to them. And so I'm really curious to see where this goes. I wasn't expecting them to be in a storyline together, but I love how they're incorporating Ariana Grace. She hasn't had much going on. So I think this would be really fun for her. Then after we had an Ethan Page segment, and he came out to talk about how he is continuing to bring Canadian excellence to the North American Championship. And of course, talking about Canada in America. He was getting booed left and right, which was so funny. I mean, great heel work by Paige. And then he said that he is the greatest Canadian of all time, which definitely triggered something that will happen in a little bit. And then he said that he wanted everyone to stand while he tried singing the Canadian national anthem. Once again, he got interrupted by Tavion Heights. And, he was being patriotic and tried to get Ethan off of his high horse. And, Tavion calls himself a weapon in human form. And, Ethan was like, well, you picked the wrong fight, whatever. And then Chelsea Green and the Secret Harvest came out. I was definitely not expecting that. And then she talked about how much of American trash Tavion is for, interrupting Ethan Page. And it was just honestly so cool to see her coming out, especially to back up Ethan Page. And, her and Tavion were actually verbally going at it for a while, and eventually they physically went at it between Paige and Tavion, not Chelsea, obviously. But it was just really funny to kind of see Chelsea out there, and I loved how they had that little Canadian moment for them. Not that I'm Canadian, but cool for them, I guess. And curious to see where this moves going forward. I don't know if Chelsea and the Secret Harvest will be involved in this moving forward at all, or if it's just going to continue being Ethan Page and Tavion Heights. I think that could be a cool matchup for Heat Wave. That nothing got announced for next week, so I think that could be really cool. But let's head into the main event. It was a main event match for the NXT Women's North American Championship. Sol Ruca defending against Tatum Paxley. Now, this was a great match, and I'm so happy that the women got the main event slot last night because they really did deserve it. They put on a freaking banger of a match. I love seeing them in the ring together. I mean, both of their in-ring styles work so well together, and I thought it was just awesome. And, this was a huge opportunity for Tatum Paxley, and I thought that she really did make the most of it. Although Nia Jax and Lash Legend were continuing fighting all freaking night, like I mentioned earlier, and they came out of the entrance ramp still fighting, which ended up leading Tatum to get distracted because, she's always in La La Land, and that led Sol to be able to take advantage of the situation and retain her title. But let's head into my overall thoughts. I thought it was a really great show. My match of the night, hands down, was that main event. I thought it was so freaking entertaining. I love Tatum Paxley. I think she's so underrated, and Sol Ruca is definitely one of the best workers in NXT as well. So I thought that they were really great. I also love the story that they're telling there with the culling and Zarya and Sol and everything. My segment of the night was the Obafemi segment. Again, I love this big story that they're telling, not just with Javontrick and Moose, but now with Darkstate as we're getting this 8-man tag match next week. I think it's going to be really amazing and so entertaining, and I'm just really loving it. Overall, though, I'd give the show a solid 7.5, possibly 8 out of 10. And I am just so pleased with NXT last night. And I'm also very happy to be back on the podcast. I was feeling, if I'm being honest, I was feeling a slight bit of burnout from the podcast, doing 4 shows a week nonstop since January when I started. I mean, we're already in month 8. So, it's been a lot without a break, but this was a much needed week and a half break, and now I feel refreshed and motivated and ready to go to bring you guys brand new content for Champion the Passion. I am so excited for the future of Champion the Passion as we are entering the last 4 months of the year, right? 4 or 5 months of the year. I'm obviously looking towards 2026 and all that that's going to bring. You guys know that I cover Raw, NXT, Dynamite, and SmackDown, and I am looking to possibly expand. So very excited. Also, just so many plans and fun things coming up that I cannot wait to bring you guys along for. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of Champion the Passion. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms, and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Don't forget to champion your passions and celebrate the joy of what you love, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!